Welcome back to week 6. Congratulations, you've all turned in essay number 1, so you should pat yourselves on the back about that. Good on you. I'll be getting those back to you in the next couple weeks. It generally takes me about 2 weeks to get everything graded and returned to you, so look forward then. This week we start the rest of our semester. This is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of what we'll be doing for the next 10 weeks as we finish this semester, which is a large research project. You're going to, this week and next week, you're going to be working to choose a specific topic that you're interested in, something that you're wanting and willing to work with for a long time, and then we're going to work toward building an annotated bibliography of all the sources surrounding that topic that you can find, and that will be essay 2. Then you're going to you're going to talk about the story of your research and a research narrative. That'll be essay 3 that leads you to an argument about the topic that you selected, which will be expressed in a long 8 to 12 page research paper for essay 4. So what we've done in Comp 2 here is what we've taken the process that you would go through to write any research paper, and we've really slowed it down and prolonged it throughout the whole semester so that you can really get a good feel for how to do this kind of work, what it takes, and how to best approach something like a really long research paper as you go through your college career, and as you move on to other things. Many of you will probably go on to grad school, but some of you may go on to law school, but most of you will probably just go on to jobs in which you will still need to be able to do research, to understand a variety of information, and then to put that information together and present it in a coherent way to other people. So that's really what we're working on in this class, is really examining the process by which we do that, and we examine it by slowing it down and doing it one step at a time. So the first step of that process will be the annotated bibliography, and that will be essay 2, and we'll talk really specifically about that here in a minute. But really the very first step, of course, is to select a topic. So that's what I want to talk to you about primarily this week in this week's lecture. Selecting a topic is absolutely imperative. It's very, very important. You want to select a topic that you're interested in. You want to select a topic that you can stay interested in for a long time. So think about this carefully and take this process seriously. I'm going to blog a little bit about it later this afternoon, so you can read my thoughts on the matter on my blog. You're going to be reading a little bit about it in your reading for this week, but it's very important that you really think about this process. So you're also going to be blogging about what you think you might want to work with, what kind of topic you are interested in learning more about. And that's what it's all about, right? We started with essay 1, we did an inquiry project where we took something we already had kind of some interest in or some thoughts about, and we found out more about it, found out what the conversation was, what people were saying, and found out where we fit within that conversation, right? So that's a very important step. Now we're going to build on that. We're going to take a much larger topic. You can of course still write on movies or television if you want to, but you're going to want to do something bigger. This is your opportunity if you wanted to write about an entire show. You could do something like that. Or you can choose a topic that's more closely related to you in some way. If you want to choose something that's related to your major, that's great. I think that's also wonderful, because then that gives you the opportunity to learn more about what you're doing, right? And to maybe use the stuff you learned in this class in later classes. So that could be good. The topic selection is totally up to you, but it is very important that you choose a topic that you're interested in and that you're going to be able to work with. So we'll talk a little bit about what that means today and in next week's video lecture. And really, I want you to be, as you're thinking about these potential topics, blogging about them, writing about them. As you've probably started to understand from doing the blogging, just doing that every week, really, it makes you sit down and step back and think about what you're doing, what's going on in your life, whether it's who's going to take the trash out in your dorm, or your fear of flying, or any number of things, or the stupid papers I'm asking you to write, right? You've all blogged about those things and more, and they're fascinating. This week I want us to use the blog as a space to reflect on the potential topics that we might want to write about for the rest of the semester. So let's get on with it. Here's what's going to be covered in this video lecture. We'll start with the assignments for essays 2 through 4, which is the research project. We'll look specifically at that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about choosing a topic and getting started, and what I expect you to just be going through. Then we're going to also look at some of the high points that I want you to focus on in this week's reading. There's some really good stuff in this week's reading, so be sure you pay attention to it. And then we'll, of course, look at your assignments for this week. Alright, so here's the assignment for essays 2 through 4, your larger research project. You're going to be walking through here the steps necessary to complete a large academic research project, and you're going to complete 3 written projects that illustrate that pursuit, right? So the first thing you're going to do is choose your topic. We're going to talk more about this here in a minute. You're encouraged to choose a topic that both interests you and relates to your major. However, any topic that is interesting to you and approved by me is fine. Your task once you selected that topic is then, of course, to learn everything you can about it, just like we did in Essay 1, right? You select something and then you learn everything you can about it. So here we're going to be dealing with bigger topics, so you're going to go beyond just Rotten Tomatoes, but we'll talk about that in a little bit and in the coming weeks, what kind of research to do. As you go through and learn all about your topic, you're going to develop a stance toward it, and that will eventually lead you to an argument. Right? So your early research questions should just kind of focus on learning as much as possible, but as you learn, you'll start to narrow your focus, and you'll start to ask more specific questions, and you'll get to a good point where you have an argument. To guide you through that, we're going to go through these assignments. The first one, of course, is Essay 2, the annotated bibliography. It's worth 15% of your grade. There's no page length. It could take anywhere from probably no less than 5 or 6 pages, but it could be quite bigger than that. March 13th is the due date. So an annotated bibliography, if you haven't done one before, includes citations and annotations for all of your sources. Gives you the opportunity to read widely and make connections, and to really practice your skills summarizing. You're going to start by finding reliable, useful academic sources of information, which we'll talk about that in the coming weeks, how we do that. You're going to compile an annotated bibliography then of 10 sources, at least 10, and no more than 3 of those may come from the general internet, popular magazines, or newspapers, right? Most of these things should be found using the stuff available to you through the library. Then down here, I've given you some more guidelines. You can use MLA or APA, and then the guideline for each annotation. Each annotation will be 150 to 250 words, and I've given you a very clear list of things that you want to include in your annotations here. So be sure that you do get on the online classroom, download this file with this assignment sheet, and spend some time really looking at what exactly I'm expecting here for the annotated bibliography. I've given you clear directions and a clear list of criteria. So be sure you check that out and ask me any questions that you have. The minimum thing, and we'll look more specifically at this here in a minute, is of course that you have 10 sources, that they represent a range of viewpoints and information, that you have accurate summaries, that you include relevant points, and that everything is correct, right? And then we have the rest of the assignment. There down here we have the research narrative, Essay 3, and then, of course, the big damn paper, Essay 4. And we'll talk more specifically about all these things in the coming weeks. But what I want you to focus on right now is Essay 2, the annotated bibliography, and selecting your topic and getting started with that. So that's what we'll be looking at now. So some takeaways from that assignment sheet. First of all, choose a topic that interests you. You're going to be working on this for 10 weeks. You need to be sure that your topic is interesting to you. You might want to consider topics related to your major. I think that is always interesting to you. If it's something you want to do, learn more about it. That's going to be important to your life. But it's not absolutely crucial that this project be related to your major. It's just as crucial that it be really interesting to you, that it's something you want to know more about. And once you have figured out your topic through blogging and through talking with me, you're going to, of course, begin researching it and reading widely, embracing opinions that go beyond what you already know, and really experiencing what all you can learn about this topic. Some other criteria for Essay 2 in particular, for the annotations, they're going to be in either APA or MLA style. So you want to choose the topic that you know, or choose the style that you know the best, or the one that best suits your topic. For APA, that's generally used for more historical, scientific, or data-driven topics, and MLA is generally for things in the humanities like literature and art and stuff like that. As you select your topics, let me know, and I'll help you determine what style is going to be best for you. Another criteria for the assignment is that you use only reliable sources, which were easy to find for Essay 1, a little more difficult for these other essays, but that's what we're going to be working on in the next few weeks. And then you'll also, of course, that tying in with that is that you only are allowed 3 general internet sources for Essay 2, but you won't have any trouble finding non-general sources. We'll be looking at that. And finally, you're going to have a minimum of 10 sources for Essay 2, each with annotations of 150 to 250 words. So these are your basic requirements. These are the things I want you to be sure you're familiar with about this Essay 2 assignment as we move through this week and begin selecting our topics. Right now you're only concerned with the first 3 things here, finding your topic and then starting to figure it out. In the coming weeks we'll talk more about specific reliable research, scholarly research, and how to craft these annotated bibliographies using either APA or MLA format. All right, well, there you have it. There's the assignment for Essay 2 and Essays 2 through 4 for the rest of the semester. Of course, those are available to you on the online classroom, and you should definitely download them and keep a copy for yourself. What I want to do now is go through and give you some of the high points that I want you to focus on as you go through your reading for this week, and then I'll leave you to it to go take your quizzes and do your blogs, specifically focusing your blog on the things that you might want to be researching on potential topics that you're considering researching for your larger project. So here's some of the high points to pay attention to during this week's reading. All right, so this week's reading is chapters 12 through 14 of your Guide to Writing and Research at Oklahoma State. Chapter 12 is, I think, one of the best chapters we've read so far, so I really want you to pay a whole lot of attention to it. It's all about finding yourself and your stance and your stake in the research that you're doing, as well as a little bit about considering your audience. Again, this is a really important chapter. There's going to be a lot of questions about it on this week's quiz. So pay good attention to it and return to it as you're moving through this process. There's a lot of good information there. Chapter 13 is going to be more about evaluating sources and things to look for in good sources and coming up with keywords and search terms and all that good stuff. So this is stuff we've talked about before, stuff you've read about in your Norton Field Guide before. But it never hurts to read a little bit more. So be sure you get through chapter 13 and see what kind of good stuff that chapter has to say. And finally, chapter 14 is going to be a basic introduction to annotated bibliographies, just what they are, exactly what you can expect that you have to do with them, and why they're important. So all of it's good stuff. Chapters 13 and 14 are very good, and you will, of course, be quizzed on them. Chapter 12, I think, is especially good, though, so pay very close attention and really see what you can glean from that. I think it's going to really help you as you go through this process of selecting your topic and figuring out why you selected that topic and what you're interested in and how you want to approach it for the rest of the semester. All right, well, your to-do list begins with reading and taking your quizzes, obviously, but then I want you to start thinking about several topics that you're interested in. Start by thinking about a few. Don't just, decide all of a sudden, but think about a few, and then do some preliminary research. See what you might be interested in choosing for your research topic. Start asking some of those good questions that we ask. And then, of course, what I want you to focus on is to blog about your ideas. What are you thinking? What are you finding out in these early stages? What are you interested in? Right? That's the most important thing we can figure out in this early stage is what we're interested in, what we know about it, what we hope to know. So get to work on that, and I'll talk to you next week.